I'm Amy Morgan, the feature writer for the Marriage Initiative. I am so pleased today to introduce you to Dr. Gary and Barb Rosberg. Barb and Gary are giants in the marriage and family realm. There's no aspect they haven't excelled at. The impact of their biblically based wisdom is felt around the world, whether through their more than 1 million books and DVD series translated into 12 different languages, their 35-year international speaking ministry, 22 years hosting a radio program, or marriage and life coaching through their America's Family Coaches. In addition to their for-profit, the Rosberg Group, they've created not one, but 4 nonprofits to serve populations including men, wounded military heroes, and first responders. Dr. Gary earned his doctorate degree in counseling from Drake University, where Barb obtained her Bachelor of Fine Arts and the couple met. They are certified John C. Maxwell International Speakers, trainers and coaches, and board certified Master Life and Marriage Coaches through Light University. The Rosbergs are also the founders of America's Family Coaches. They've joined the International Christian Coaching Institute, where they will serve as faculty for 3 courses designed to equip coaches to earn the Masters of Marriage Coaching certification. Recently, they've been credentialed as certified master Christian life coaches in the marriage coaching specialty. The International Christian Coaching Institute is the fastest growing Christian coaching network in the world. Woo! What a mouthful! Well earned and well deserved.
Thank you, Amy.
We were talking today how grateful we are not to be working full time anymore. So this is a fun thing to get to talk about.
Oh, well, y'all have a lifetime of wonderful experience, and we are delighted to hear all about it.
What eclipses all that, Amy, is that we are the chairman and co-chairman of the Carl Caton San Antonio Marriage Initiative chapter up in Wheaton, Illinois. And we just want you to know we are in charge of the fan club. The fan club is going great. We love Sammy and Carl. And we go way, 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 way back. And so we are delighted to do anything that Carl is a part of.
Well, the feeling is very mutual here and in San Antonio and with Carl. So thank you guys so much for being here.
Yeah, we're happy to. Thank you.
Well, let's start at the beginning, which was quite some time ago. But let's talk about your motivation. How did you guys get into this?
Go ahead, Barbie.
Well, how did we start? Go ahead.
Well, we met on a fall. No, we
met on a blind date.
Yeah, we met on a blind date.
We got married.
That's the most important thing. And I was a goner as soon as I saw Barb and met her, and I've never looked back. And then I learned that she had met Jesus, and just a few months before that. And then I was falling in love with her, and I wasn't pursuing Jesus. And she said, "Oh no, I'm going to marry a godly man. I can never marry you." And I remember saying, literally, Amy, "You're going to reject me for somebody you can't see." And she didn't laugh at me. I mean, it wasn't at all hurtful, but she just, in a heartbeat. I mean, she was so in love with Jesus Christ. And so I thought, who is this Jesus? So that put me on a 5-month pursuit of Christ. And I came to Christ. And then Barb fell in love with me. So it was, and we've never turned back.
No.
And we've been married 47 years.
Yes.
And she still knocks me out every time I walk in the room. In fact, we're going to turn off this video and just enjoy our time together. So I'm a one-woman man. Barb's commitment is to stay married to me so I don't ruin some other woman's life. So we've got that in common. And we're just grateful to get to encourage others.
Well, just that alone is super encouraging and motivating. But you also dedicated your professional career to helping marriages. So let's go there. Let's talk about that too.
Well, we both grew up in healthy homes. My parents were married 54 years.
Wow. Mine were married 72 years.
Or actually 74, 11
was
months,
it 74?
Right? Yeah, just short of 75
I thought it was
years.
72. It was just short of years, right?
And so we come from a longevity of marriage, not strong Christian marriages, but very healthy, moral homes. Our parents all kind of came to Christ later in life. And so we had really, really good roots. In fact, in one of the books I wrote that, Dad, you taught me all this stuff. I just, wrote it down and got to pen it. But we have had a passion for a long, long time to help others. And so we've gotten to do that since the early 80s. And yeah, and we blinked and here we are. And so we're grateful.
Oh,
You know, Amy, I know you're interested in our story. How did we really get started? And early in our marriage, Gary decided to go back to earn his doctorate in his EDD. And, you know, what happened was we were young, we started a family, and we really experienced a sense of total imbalance in our marriage, in our family. And I mean, we were well intended, but what happened was Gary started working and pursuing his doctorate. And it wasn't just for a season, but it was season upon season upon season. And when that happened, it really took a toll on our relationship.
Yeah, it did. And I was teaching graduate school. I was running a correctional institution during the day, and then taking classes. And it's 11 years in college, 7 years in grad school. And Barb was lovely then. She's lovely now. And she's parenting our 2 little girls, who are now 2 big girls, and with 12 kids between them. And you began to distance from me.
Yeah, you know how it is in a marriage. You tell your husband what you need. We need more date time. We need more connection time. I need more of you in our home. Gary would leave oftentimes around 6:30 in the morning. He'd work all day. He'd go to the library. He'd study. He'd do his classes. But he'd be home about 11:15 at night. And when you think of having 2 small children, he was gone. He was gone. And so school came before about everything. And over time, and it seemed as though you weren't listening. You probably weren't. So what happened was I quit trying in our marriage. I thought, why am I the only one working on our marriage? And I gave up. Now, Gary still got great meals at the end of the day. I still loved him. But the reality was my heart hurt. And when a woman's heart hurts, it can become hardened. And I didn't want to hurt anymore. So I kind of built up an invisible wall, and I'm not even sure you knew what was going on. So.
Yeah, and the only person who could get through to me was our daughter, who's now 44. She was 5. And I reached in my Bible, not intending to talk about this, but I carried this in my Bible, and she had some yellow yarn, just like this, around a piece of white paper. And she said, "Can I show you a picture of our family? Daddy, I drew a picture of our family." And I said, "Sarah, not right now. Your daddy's studying." And she said, "I know you're preparing for the oral dissertation for your doctorate." And she's the only 5-year-old in the neighborhood who knew what that was. So I kind of shooshed her off, but then she came back. And so I said, "Well, show me your picture." And she unravels the yarn. She had the same yellow yarn around her pigtails. And then she opened up the picture, and at the top it said, "Our family best." And then there's a picture of the son, and there's mommy, and there's Sarah, and there's Missy, and there's Katie the dog, and a little rabbit. And
the rabbit, even the rabbit made it.
well, and this, yeah, even the rabbit made it, and that's where the story's going. And I said, "That's a great picture. I'm going to hang it up on the fridge, and every night when I get home from helping all those people, I'm going to look at the picture of my family." And she went back to play, and I looked back at the picture, and something begins to gnaw at me. And I said, "Sarah, come back in. Daddy wants to see that picture again." And I remember she said, "Daddy, don't you like my picture?" And I said, "Well, honey, I love your picture. But there's mommy, there's you, there's Missy." I said, "Where's your dad?" And she said, "You're at the library. You're at the library." And I mean, that was in 1983. And I realized in that moment the cost of the lack of balance between the marketplace and my family. And I hung the picture up. I remember I got mad at Barb, because that's what guys do. They just get mad at their wife. And it hung there, and all my doctoral professors and all the other doctoral students filled a house that Barb threw a party for me, which was so over generous, but hardly deserved. And the picture hung there as a testimony, not from Barb, but from me, a testimony to my failure. Right now. And a few weeks later, I was downstairs with this Bible. It's got a new cover, but same Bible. And I was just beseeching God, how do I come home? I mean, how do I come home? Now, the irony, I'm a Christian counselor. I've got my own clinic. I've got 3 clients, paying $150 a month rent, charging $35 an hour. So that's how long ago it was. And I went upstairs and Barb was apparently sleeping and it was pitch black. It was late at night. And I remember I asked 4 questions. The first question, are you sleeping? And she goes, no. And I remember going, rats. And, that was, and then I said, did you see the picture? And you said, yes. And I said, why didn't you say anything? And she's lovely, but she's a truth teller. And she said, Gary,
I said, I love you.
And
Your
the girls
girls love you, but nobody knows you.
And then the 4th question, and again, it's pitch black in this room because I was too much of a coward to turn on the light. And I just said, man, come home to my family. Mm-hmm. I said, I just want to come home. Mm-hmm. And I remember you stayed there and I started to back out of the room and I just proclaimed, I'm coming home. I'm coming home to my family. I'm coming home. I went downstairs and I took this Bible and I poured out my heart to God, and God, just give me a way. Help me find a way.
And then you did.
Yeah. So evidently. So for 2 years, I worked my way home. So with Missy, I played Candyland. We just left her house 5 minutes before we started this interview here. And I can beat any guy watching this deal in Candyland. And with Sarah, broccoli sandwiches at health food store, and with Barb, date nights. And 2 years later, Missy came to me and she said, I have a picture of our family. And I said, well, honey, I don't do pictures of our family. Give me a lobotomy or something. She gives me this picture that hangs in my other study. And I'm in the picture. Mm. And we take most of our podcast time. So the other questions can go really fast. But we say that, and Carl knows the story. I mean, I've been with Carl during hard times in our family when we were going through stuff outside of Barb and me. I've been in his pickup truck. I love Carl Caton and Sammy and your team. And a lot of those guys down there have heard this. But I share that because Barb and I don't try to go anywhere with the people that we've helped now in all sorts of places. That we haven't gone through the crucible of pain and suffering. And Chuck Swindoll says that home is where life makes up its mind. Mm. And so to every guy watching this, every gal watching this that are in the marriage space or being helped by those in the marriage space from Sammy, we made it home. And now at this stage of life, all I want is more time with Barb and Sarah and Missy and the kids and their husbands, and we delight in every moment we get. So it's that's our story. We're sticking to it. So we met on a blind date. We got married, came to Jesus, got married, and we like to help families.
Well, but that is, so many people might have part of that story, but they wouldn't have finished it. And that's just so inspirational that you, like you said, you've been there and this is the wisdom that you've shared over 35 years of speaking, 22 years on the radio program. Because like you said, Barb, a woman would call in or a man would call in and say, I think you'd mentioned, he said, my wife just left. And what would your first response be back to them?
We'd say, what'd she tell you a year ago, what she needed? Because usually, generally speaking, a woman will tell her husband what she needs, just as I did with Gary. We need more date time. We need more connection. We need more family time. I need you home. And what happens is, I think a man thinks she'll get over it. She'll get over it. She'll get over it. And we have learned there's a catchism that's very common in our industry. It's called a walk-away wife. A woman will talk. A man shuts it off like it's a bad radio show. And so when she quits talking, here's the key. A man thinks, good, she's over it. But what happens is she quits trying. When a woman quits talking, she quits trying, she begins her journey of walking away. And if a woman stays in that mindset for 6 months or longer, she's out the door. Also, statistically, when a woman walks away, she does not come back. Because when a woman makes up her mind, she's done. And it shows the incredible, incredible power of our thinking, but also the incredible power of cherishing your wife. Because if she chooses to forgive, to give grace, to experience the more of marriage, to build the marriage upon however much we have to be reduced down, but to build it upon the rock of Christ, and choose to stay in the marriage, do you know what a powerhouse a woman can be in her marriage? I mean, her mind, her heart, her thoughts, her influence can take it far beyond what any woman can ever dream of. That's how much power a woman has in her marriage.
And we know, Amy, that a lot of the people watching this are marriage champions. And you can never, ever overestimate the power that you have to believe in somebody, a couple that is, their back is up against the wall and somebody has walking away, woman or the husband, to speak belief into them and to put them on your shoulders and to remind them that God's faithful. And what I tell guys when they take that strong walk that we read about in Proverbs 15, when David says, who can walk on a holy hill? And it's the man who keeps his oath even when it hurts. And so what I tell guys is, you need to unto Christ continue to walk with him and be found faithful. And if she, even though she's distancing, if she turns around, and if you're acting the fool, many times she'll never come back. She'll just keep going. But if she turns around and sees you surrendering to Christ and pouring yourself out and doing the right thing, and continuing to provide for the family and not going out and messing with some other woman and all that other stuff, if she sees what she's always wanted, many times she will return and you'll have that second chance. And so that's so important for the marriage champions at Sammy and beyond, that we capture the importance of believing in others, even when they don't believe in themselves.
Well, I love that you have such a great, because this is what you do. You're training the coaches.
Yeah.
And I know you have an endeavor that is doing that now. That's kind of where you're moving into as you're talking about your legacy. This is your big legacy project now, isn't it? Is working.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What you're passionate about.
Yeah. And we're just very, very blessed. So we've helped a lot of families and that's all good stuff. But at this point, it really is about legacy. So about 3 years ago, June Hunt, who lives in Dallas and has the Hope Center in Plano, I think, and she hosts 42 different ministries there. And June is a lovely woman about our age and is a radio broadcaster, as we've done for some years. And she gathered together about a dozen of us. So Steve Arterburn from New Life, Dr. John Trent, Barb and I, Dwight Bain from Orlando, General Bob Deese, who's a 2-star retired general, Dr. Mark Creer, who's a 2 gold medalist, Olympian from the LA Games, and gathered about a dozen of us, Leah and Rolf Carolyn in spiritual formation, Alita Reynolds, Women of Faith. And she gathered us and essentially said, are you willing to park your credentials at the door and kind of coalesce this team? And we will do master's level training. So kind of like master's classes that a lot of us have watched with Spielberg and Jodie Foster and Steve Martin, some of them, and 4 camera, high def, state of the art. And we're going to shoot, dozens. So for Barb and I, we shot 31-hour videos on all of the Rosberg method over 3 different trips down to Dallas, and launch the International Christian Coaching Institute, which is now officially launched. And we're having a big conference here in the Dallas area in a couple of weeks, actually. And so we've got coaches coming from all over the world. There's 650 members now involved in that. And so Barb and I give leadership to the marriage space. Dr. Trent gives leadership to the family and parenting. Steve Arterburn to addictions. General Deese to military resiliency. And we all carry, if you will, this passion to love others as Christ loves us, and to be biblically based, to have unity as a team. It's absolutely fascinating. And we've been involved with some of the best platforms ever in the last 40 years in radio and speaking and books and all that stuff. So we've gotten to do just about everything. And this team, we would match with anybody. So I encourage all of your champions to check out icccoaching.com. So you don't have to go to our website, but go to icccoaching.com and see what God's doing there, because it's fantastic.
Well, and that's where they could take some of those training classes, right? Because you'll be able to train people around the world, because
Yeah.
it's something they can access online and it'll be available, and they'll learn how to do that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. So we have a marriage coach in Beirut. So this gal's name is Rachel, and we can't pronounce her last name. But she reached out and said, "Will you come to Beirut?" And we go, "We're not coming to Lebanon." And she said, "Well, would you please come? We know you've gone international. No, but we'll train you." So she's one of our coaches. We've got a couple in Wales, England, and we're training them. And we've got wounded couples that we've worked with in our military
Wounded
marriage.
military, yes.
Wounded military, so paraplegic, third-degree burn, so Green Berets. So these are studs from the military and their spouses that we've helped over the years, and now they're going to be training, others in the military that have been wounded or veterans. We're training
First responders.
First responders. So we've got first responders. We have active military, and then coaches from churches and communities,
And some counselors as
and
well.
counselors. They're all popping up. A bunch of them are gathering in Dallas. We're going to do a 10.5-hour intensive there at the
So they'll
Empower Conference.
Yes.
And then they'll be on video, and Barb and I will be mentoring them. And this is really how we're going to spend a lot of our time. And what June has done for all of us that are on this faculty is taken, all these books and all this experience and just whittled it down to put in a camera, kind of like we're doing today, and just say, bring it, and we just bring the best of the best of the best. And then we mentor them on Zoom to get them credentialed so that they'll just continue to carry the message where God has given them favor and given them space to do that.
That is just amazing and just miraculous. I know you have you call it your RMAP, and you have the Rosberg method. Could you go over that just a little bit? Because I think as our marriage champions are thinking about how they can access you, let's talk about what they'll get. Obviously, you say personal mentoring, but
Yeah.
what else will you teach them?
Well,
It's a Rosberg marital assessment. We call it the RMAP.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the analytics and what it measures.
Yeah, Dr. David Olson, who was the founder, he's from the University of Minnesota, founder of Life Innovations, and now another couple has Prepare and Enrich, but he owned all of that. He came to Barb and I, and he really likes Barb, and he put up with me.
We're all grandparents.
Yeah, and we're all
bonded,
grandparents.
We bonded a lot.
We're just old friends, and this is a $50,000 tool. So we didn't have $50,000.
That was 20 years ago.
Yeah. And
There
he
you
said, he said, Gary and Barb, let me help you quantify the 6 secrets that you teach in all of your books and all this stuff. Let me help you quantify it. So a couple can take it, or a group leader can take it that's helping a church or a military group or first responders or whatever. And so we spent 2.5 years, and they spent a lot of money, and we quantified what God had entrusted to us in the 6 Secrets to a Lasting Love book. And so it generates about a 25-page computerized report identifying the strengths and weaknesses in 12 different scales that goes through the Prepare and Enrich back of the house computer, but it's our material. And so counselors use it, coaches use it, therapists use it, churches use it, and it helps. It's like an X-ray, Amy. So a lot of pastors, and we love pastors, but a lot of pastors know who's getting married, they know who's in counseling, and they know who gets divorced. But if they look out at a congregation, they often don't know what's going on. They don't know the tenor. So we reveal to them from the results of these tests the spiritual depth, the romance, the resolving conflict, the communication, vulnerability, spiritual intimacy, boundaries, trust. So we assess all these situations and can help either a counselor, a pastor, a group leader look at it and go, okay, here's my group. So, Barb and I are testing all the marriage coaches that will be training in Dallas at the ICCI convention, and they'll all be in a big aggregate. And so we'll not only give them their individual results, but we'll tell them this is how they are as a group.
Wow.
And then we're doing the same thing for 30 executive couples in Florida in a couple of weeks. And they're coming from all over the country, and they're all taking the RMAP because they want to know how they're doing. And then we'll help them figure out what to do.
I love that.
So if you're interested in learning where you can get the RMAP, because if I were your shoes, I would be curious to use this tool to help me with couples. Should they go to America's Family
Yeah,
Coaches?
they can go to americasfamilycoaches.com.
Go to americasfamilycoaches.com
Yeah.
and look for the Rosberg marital assessment. You can pull that down. I'd encourage you to take it as a couple, get your results back, and make sure that you see how you're doing. It's it's very powerful to learn about what your mate says about your marriage, as well as what you're saying, because actually women will, well, let me put it this way. I'm putting it in a positive light. I think I'm positive. Maybe it might be negative, but a man will score their marriage as far as marital satisfaction higher and give it a higher score in many of these variables or areas than the wife.
That's because we're happy campers.
And yes, but you know what? It was Dr. Gary Smalley that we loved with all of our hearts, who said this, that a woman is a walking, talking marriage manual. So when a husband realizes the insights that his wife brings to the marriage, if he pays attention, he will understand what he needs to do in order to increase marital satisfaction in the marriage. So I hope that helps you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for helping the marriage champions know how to onboard, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Because exactly, it's like, well, wait, this sounds fantastic. How do we, where do we find it? How do we do it?
It's a strong tool, Amy, really strong and very helpful. And it also gives you practical ways in order to get your marriage stronger. So forgive me for interrupting you. You've got
no, that was great. I think that was wonderful. Now, I do think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about some of your ministry work with the first responders, and you kind of alluded to the wounded warriors. Could we go a little bit and talk a little bit about your foundation? Because I think those populations are so important, and that was really just brought out by need in your home state.
Yeah, it was. So in 2005, a general was listening to us on the radio, and he had a bunch of Iowa engineers. So they were National Guard engineers dismantling mines in Iraq. And 4 had been killed, several wounded, and a bunch divorced. And General Graber called me and just said, you don't know me. I'm a general in the Army. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I stood up, I remember, and thinking he could see me. And he said, would you help? And I said, of course we'll help. I mean, I grew up in a community and a family that we fly the flag. We say, yes, sir. We honor uniforms. I mean, that's my DNA and Barb's DNA. And so we, through a conference, had 100 couples. A couple weeks later, another 150 couples came. We did another one because there were so many that were coming home. And we launched something called Honoring America's Heroes, and did that for about 15 years. So we helped military all around the world. And generous donors, almost $2/3 of $1 million of Rosberg resources went out all over the world to military by generous donors, just giving, and we just passed it right through, and we get books and author discounts, and so we pushed out tens of thousands of our resources to help chaplains. And I was down in San Antonio. Barb and I have been there training chaplains, family life chaplains at Lackland, and Joint Air Force Base there. And then 5 or 6 years, 7 years into that, some wounded warriors heard about us, and they invited us to an event. Then the Green Beret Foundation that helps wounded Green Berets invited us to an event. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, we concluded, let's just start our own gig for wounded military. So what if we could find 20 couples? So we got 40% of them are Green Berets, 60% general military. They're all been devastated by disability. So they're blind, 3rd-degree burns, traumatic brain injury, paraplegic, quadriplegic, amputees, and they're from all over the country, 16 different communities. And we brought them together for 6 years and gave them the RMAP, and we coached them. And our commitment was to make them the finest marriages possible. And we just developed succession for that. So Taya Kyle, Chris Kyle's widow from American Sniper down in Texas. So she has assumed responsibility for shepherding a bunch of those couples. 5 of those couples were training in Dallas in 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the ICCI. Did we mention International Christian Coaching Institute? So we're training 5 of those precious couples. So they're going to get together and they party hard and laugh hard and love big. and we love them incredibly. I mean, we know their kids' names and their dogs' names, and so they're very dear to us. So we have helped wounded military. We've helped military, helped firefighters and police. We had 5 line of duty deaths within 9 months in Des Moines, our hometown, and so we went to the police chief, and so we're now entering the 5th year of a program there, helping cops and firefighters. We've had 1,500 of them that have been part of our program, and we've trained them in the Rosberg marriage coaching stuff. So these are all just avenues. We've done it in South Africa. We went there for 9 years, and we've done it in Malaysia and Singapore and Guatemala and Costa Rica and El Salvador and India and all over the place. But it's the same method, and because it's God's deal, because it's all based in Scripture, and everything we teach is rooted in Philippians 2, and so it's pretty simple, and we've just stayed the course, plowed that field, and we believe if people can learn those 6 secrets that we teach, that they can have a great marriage, or they can help others have a great marriage. And so that's what we've given really the last 40 years to, and we really like each other. So it's going pretty well. But this is going to last, I think.
Well, it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I love though that you've taken, not only just, all these wonderful resources you've developed, but that you really, some of the highest risk groups, you have saw the need, you were approached, and you stepped out and said, of course. And you did it on the macro by doing conferences and projects, but you also did it on the micro, investing personally in these special couples who really, I mean, they're military and they're injured, traumatically injured.
Yeah.
And yet you not just hand them a book, which is great, but still you've worked with them, and now they're going to turn around and they're going to just have that firsthand, exhortation and encouragement to others. It's just wonderful to see how that pays back, and I love that.
Well, Amy, I think that when people have talked to us in the past, what we've heard above their voice is it's the call of God. And when you love the Lord and you seek his purpose for what your life on this earth is for, it's a holy yes. So we heard Christ in every one of those invitations, and it was a holy yes for a group of sheep that truly the Lord loves so much. And just as he said to Peter, will you feed my sheep? That's a big question. And so it was we were blessed that the Lord even asked us to do it. So let me tell you something. We got more out of it than the other kids, no matter what group the kids were in, the other sheep. But it's just such a wonderful thing, following the Lord. If you ask, he will tell you, and he will call you to his work. And just remember, say yes to that holy work, because your life will forever be changed.
Yeah, and these couples are so easy to love. One of them lives not far from San Antonio, and they need to come up and talk to Sammy. So Sergeant Ed Matayka and Sergeant Karen Matayka, both medics. He was wounded, lost both legs, traumatic brain injury, had a stroke, has had, incredible losses. And Karen was a nominal Christian and joined our group, and just kept being faithful, kept coming back every year. And one Sunday afternoon, we're tooling down I-80, and she calls Barb.
And it was her son.
Yeah, right.
That had learned from his friends and been invited to go to church. I think he was around 5 or 6.
Yeah, two.
And he came home and he said, I have accepted Christ into my heart. And then he asked his mom, have you done this? And I think her answer was no. And he said, why not? Well, she answered the why not, and was in church the next Sunday and received Christ. And then she decided to be baptized. And wouldn't you know, the whole family was baptized together.
Yeah.
It was powerful. And if you really want to meet world changers,
Yeah. Bring Ed and Karen Matayka
yes, on
to
your
Sammy.
podcast.
And,
they
on podcast.
have changed our lives.
Yeah.
And once again, when Christ says to you, "Will you feed my sheep?" You end up being fed as you feed others. So the Lord's in all of it. That's just one couple out of many.
Oh, well, I think our marriage champions definitely feel that as they, like you, when you give to others, and that's why they are marriage champions. When you give to others, you know that's it. And oh yes, but thank you so much. We could just talk forever, but I know you guys have a volleyball game to get to.
Yeah, Lily Ann's playing volleyball. If the girlfriend looks up in the stands and her grandparents aren't there, we're in trouble.
No, you got to go. So thank you so much for being here. You're just delightful.
You took the words right out of my mouth. You are delightful. You are just a lovely, lovely interviewer, and we thank you so much.
Yeah. If we could afford you and we're expanding, we'd probably say, "Hey, Carl, can she help us?" But Carl Caton, did we mention that we are the head of Carl Caton's fan club? So we live in Illinois and Iowa. We have two places because we have these 12 grandkids spread out. And so just know that we're the head of the Carl Caton fan club in Iowa and Illinois. And the North region is winning. So
we've got it covered.
So Sammy,
well, he feels the same, and rightfully so.
Well, I know, but do you have one more minute?
Yeah, of course.
So we have told people all over the world, and now I'm putting the kidding and the fun aside, about Carl Caton and Sammy. And we have spoken in 45 states, some of them 30 and 40 times. So we've been all over the joint. And so we've been exposed. We have seen the best of the best of the best of the best. And there's something about Sammy, and again, I've spoken there a couple times. There's something about what God's doing down there with you guys. And we have carried that banner to so many people because the uniqueness of a team, Carl and the leadership team have developed this. I mean, they've chewed this thing one bite at a time, so they didn't get bigger than they should have. But you are gradually building a foundation that is the envy of most community type of organizations. And we're just so proud of y'all, and we need you desperately. And so what you're doing, let your tribe increase, and may others capture the vision. And we like to yap about it because it's the real deal. And so we love you all. Guard your hearts, and thank you for allowing us to. I don't know what we've done. We're just gonna. Well, Barb has brought wisdom. I carry her bag. That's all I do.
This is what we're doing. I'm telling you. You can hear how far we've been around the world. We've been on the road. Now our family is getting all of us.
Yeah.
And we're building in the legacy to those that are influencers. But I'm telling you, it's all about your family.
Yeah.
Don't miss out.
Yeah, so win at home. Stay in the
win
picture.
at home. And you know what? That's what we're doing today.
Amen.
And we've never been happier. So God bless you. We're praying.
Guard
for
your heart.
Yep.
Thanks, Amy.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you both so much.
God
And
bless.
Marriage Champions, if you would like to find out more about the Rosbergs, you can always find us at marriageinitiative.org.